My first fractional sales consulting client was for a whopping $10,000 a month. And it was the first client that I would sign in a series of many for the 5 months following that deal that enabled me to make $194,000 in take-home income. Get this, without needing to take sales calls. And so in this video, I want to explain all that went into actually finding and bringing this deal to a close so you can go out there and do it too. And I want to show you what is possible with the right opportunity and the right positioning, so that way, if you're a remote closer who's sick of being on that grind of sales call to sales call, or just tired of having to go to another offer, or just think that all you can do is close, fractional sales consulting is probably one of the best career moves that you can do. And closing my first deal was the day that a line was drawn in the sand for what I knew that I was capable of, and I tested myself to be able to go out there and do more. So let's go ahead and take it way back to the start, before the deal even came to the table. Now, if you know anything about me from watching maybe other videos on my channel, there was a brief period in time in 2023 where I was working as a sales manager for a sales agency and also working as a remote closer during the day, the sales agency at night. The sales agency was Australian, believe it or not, so I was working from probably around 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. Central Time, and I was working as a remote closer during the day, anywhere from 8 a.m. to around maybe 4 or 5 o'clock. There was a little bit of an overlap depending on the day. It was completely manageable. Now, during this time, I was running myself to the ground. I was working crazy hours. Imagine every single day working from around 8 a.m. to around 3 to 4 a.m., rocking on maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep. It's not really sustainable. And so I was coming to a period of time where I was starting to approach not burnout, but I was really questioning what was going to come next for me in my career. But I was working really hard and I was making good money, don't get me wrong. And that's when a friend of mine reached out to me because he wanted to catch up. Now, I asked him what he was working on, and he was part of a business, this software company, this new and emerging offer that was trying really aggressively to scale. Now, ironically, it happened to be in a niche or an industry that I was personally very familiar with and was very close to my heart. It was one of the places that I began, which was mergers and acquisitions, deal making, business buying, Pena, QLA, the whole 9 yards. That's a story for another video. But I was talking to him and he was having a particularly hard time selling and sustaining himself on this offer because the deal flow and everything was just crazy. They were having a hard time with consistency. So I offered him all the value that I could. And when I mean value, I mean explaining exactly what I was doing to close deals when I was on offer similar. I offered him scripting, I offered him resources, and I said that, hey, I remember being in a very similar situation to yourself. And I'd be curious to speak to your sales manager, whoever your marketing director is, to explain to them the things that I would have done better when I was selling something similar that held me back from having success. Now, this offer was for business buying, the buying and selling of businesses. I used to sell for an offer doing business buying. I also used to do business buying myself way back when. Once more, a story for another video. But I knew the problems and pains that he was going through because I had just experienced them. I had just lived them. That's where I was selling prior for the sales agency that I was a part of. And so there was so many things that I would have done better during my period when I was selling an offer similar that I wanted to tell whoever was in charge of this so that way they could see better and more success. And that's when I got connected to their sales manager / sales director. Now, it was an interesting meeting. I just met with him to break the ice and tell him, what I was about and explain my value. I didn't have anything to offer. Now, here's a really important thing, is I was not trying to sell anything to him. I was just meeting for the sake of meeting to say, hey, my friend said he's having a hard time selling on this offer. Seems like there's some growth stuff. Would love to just share with you what I know and what I believe is possible because I sold something similar and it was a really similar challenge. Now, when I met with the sales director, it was interesting because obviously, he's the sales director, sales manager. They're not going to want to tell you there's a bunch of things that are going wrong because that's their job. That's their focus. And so during that meeting, there wasn't a lot to cover, but I just decided to offer as much as I could. And one of the things that I offered was my sales scripts. Now, back when I used to sell on the business buying offer, I had perfected the script down to a T. I had it down to a science. Not only that, but I had sample close call recordings. And so I handed him this script, and there was my close call recordings on it for $2.5K, $6K, $5K, $10K, and a $20K deal. All recordings of me closing those deals, bringing cash in over the line, selling the exact offer, using the exact script that was the calls were attached to. And I offered that. And that's when something crazy happened, very unexpected, which was around a week went by and we decided to set up another meet. We talked again. He said the script was good. They started to play around with it a little bit. Then he went silent again. 2 days later, I get a message from him saying, hey, our founder is interested in meeting with you. He saw the resources. We'd love to talk to you. And so me not knowing what to expect from this was optimistic. And so I said, sure. And I got invited into a WhatsApp chat with 4 people in it. Sales manager, business owner, compliance, and an assistant, and myself. 5 of them. And next thing I know is there's a call. My phone's ringing. And it's from this chat that I just got added. And so sure enough, I just go ahead and answer the call, and I'm sitting there saying, hey, hello, being good old charismatic self. Sales manager / sales director at the time takes a moment to introduce me to the business owner and to the compliance guy. And they start asking me questions about, the business, because I used to sell something similar. They started asking me, hey, you used to sell something like this? And I said, yes, I did. And they said, well, tell us what you know. And I said, okay, this is what I know. I know that we were running this type of funnel, getting these types of calls. This was the cost. This is the success rate. This was the cash. And they kept asking me questions. And what was really important in this was that I knew my stuff. I knew from experience, having experienced it, what to tell them as far as answers go. There was questions they asked that I didn't have answers to, and I was transparent in that. And so he said, how soon can you meet us? And I said, what do you mean? And he's like, we want to take you out to Vegas to come out. We'll fly you out to meet us. We'll take care of everything. And I said, I'm not sure. I mean, how soon would you want to meet? And he said, what are you doing tomorrow? And I said, well, I don't have anything particular planned for tomorrow. Great. Can you come out tomorrow? And I said, yeah, I can come out tomorrow. Perfect. He said the name of the assistant. I'll keep names out of this. Arrange accommodations, have him meet us in Vegas tomorrow. We'll plan a dinner for all of us. And I said, okay. And she said, sure thing, done. And so I get a text after the fact for a bunch of information about me so she could book flights. A flight's booked, a hotel room is booked, and accommodations are booked. And so next thing I know, I'm going to the airport to take a semi-private jet charter all the way out to Vegas to then get shuttled over to the hotel where there's a room that's set up for me. And I've never experienced anything like this before in my life. But that's when I realized just how much wealth this man had. And it was the first time I met with a truly ultra high net worth individual. And it makes me kind of smile thinking about it, because for any of you guys who really aspire to be wealthy, this is the type of experience that just really opens your eyes to what is truly possible when you have money beyond belief. I'm talking hundreds of millions of dollars. And so I find myself in Vegas. I get myself situated in the hotel. It was a bit of a hang up for me getting myself in the room because I was young. I was only actually 20 at the time, and you need to be 21 to check into a hotel if you didn't know. So happened to have an alter ego, for lack of better words, to get myself checked into the hotel room. If you know what I'm talking about. And that's when the day continues to go on. I looked up some more information about him on YouTube, and then I get invited to a dinner. She messages me, okay, there's a dinner that evening. And so we all arrive, and we're waiting outside of this restaurant for a dinner, and we're all there, the sales manager, the compliance guy, the assistant, even the business owner's wife, and we're waiting for him to show up. And so he's not quite there yet. And then eventually he comes walking in, and he says hi to his team, and then he turns to me, and he says, hello. And it was him, and I'd watched him in the videos, and I was really taken aback by just actually seeing him in person. He was a real living, breathing human being who had started all of these really incredible businesses, some of which you might have even been customers of. And I shook his hand and I said, it's nice to meet him. And he says, how was the flight? And I said, it was great. Everything is good. How was the day? Everything's great. Come sit with me and the team. Let's go eat dinner. And he was incredibly generous, incredibly giving. And so we sat down, all of us, and we started to have our dinner. And there was this nice Vegas restaurant that we were in. And one thing that crossed my mind is I felt so grateful for this experience. And I was so blessed to be around these people. And it was such eye-opening that I said, hey, I want to run to the bathroom really quickly. And they said, sure. And when I left the restaurant, I checked in with the waiter and I said, hey, when the bill comes, I just want you to pay for it on my card. I didn't need to do this. They paid for me to come out to Vegas. They wanted me to be there, but I couldn't help but return the gesture for gratitude because I cared a lot about how I was perceived in this, and I wanted to be the person that I wanted to be. I wanted to be someone who was grateful and back. And this is something that will go a long way, and I say it to not just take advantage of the things that are given to you, but truly appreciate them and be the kind of person, live to the highest character and highest standard that you. And so when I came back from the bathroom, I slid the waiter my card and I said, is there a tip that's built in? Just give yourself 10%. And he said, the minimum's 15. And I said, fine, do the minimum 15. Just, I want you to make it discreet. If you could just pay for it and just bring the bill after, that would be great. He said, sure, fine. We sat down at the dinner table and proceeded to talk business. And later that day, the bill came. Well, later that night, the bill came and it was already paid. And the business owner was completely in shock when the guy came with the card reader and all of that stuff. And this is one of the subtle nuances that I think was something that really kind of put him in his place to realize, well, not put him in his place, but I think helped him become aware of just kind of maybe the caliber of person I was, because I'd read it in a book prior that one of the best things that you can do around ultra rich people is offer to pay. Because when a lot of people have money, naturally it's just assumed that they pay. Other people don't step up and front the bill and front the burden. Mind you, this was the most expensive dinner I've ever paid for because we were in a very luxurious restaurant in Vegas in a casino in the top portion, and I didn't know how much this bill was going to be. And I was making good money, mind you, but to pay $800 for a dinner was a little bit beyond me. I've never paid $800 for dinner in my life. If you have, that's great. but I hadn't. But I paid for this dinner knowing that, hey, as much as that's an expense that I'm paying, there's something good, what I'm building is goodwill, and that's going to come back to me. And when we were leaving the restaurant, I got stopped outside of the restaurant by him and the compliance guy. The compliance guy turns to look at me, and the business owner looks at me, and he says, how much for you to work with us? And that's when I said, well, I don't know. I'm in a good position right now. I'm not eager to really leave what I'm doing, but I'm beyond happy to provide as much value as I can for free. Don't feel like you need to pay me. This experience has been enough. And he said, that's great. How much for you to work with us? How much are you making now? And so I took how much I was making and tacked $5,000 onto it because I didn't know how much money he was willing to put on the table. He said, okay, great. Let me talk with the team. We're going to make you an offer. And if you like it, hopefully you join us. Hopefully you work for us. I want you to be with us. And that was the first time that I ever met someone with a lot to say and offer that. And so I go back to my hotel room and I get a phone call on my phone later that day. And that's when they make me an offer that I couldn't refuse, which was, hey, we're going to pay you $10,000 a month plus 10% of cash. And we're going to give you $5,000 if you can start with us immediately if you sign it today. And I said, okay, cool. I guess I'm doing this. And that was the beginning of a new chapter. And I remember that there was a DocuSign that was sent to me. It wasn't me sending me something, but they wanted me to come in. They gave me a lot of freedom and flexibility to do the things I wanted and needed to do. They brought me to the hotel room that they were in the next day, and we just spent the whole day picking apart the funnel and all this stuff. They said, how soon can you start? And I said, as soon as possible. And this was a Friday, mind you. So from Friday to Saturday, and then from Saturday to Sunday, and then Sunday I had to leave for Monday. And he said, how much longer can you stay? And I said, I can't. Because mind you, I was still a salesperson, and I had the responsibilities of doing the sales agency stuff. And so after that weekend of signing and starting with these guys, the following week I would need to free up myself to be able to go and leave these other things. And so I put in my 2 weeks notice everywhere else, and that was the beginning of a new chapter. And so looking back on it, the couple things that I did really well during that allowed me to be able to take advantage or be qualified for an opportunity like that was just to give value everywhere I can and speak from a place of genuine authenticity, and more importantly, be the quality of person or live to the standard that is understood, admired, and respected by people who have a lot of means, by people who have a lot of resources. And so if you're watching this and you're unsure really where to begin, well, watch what I talk about under the radar client acquisition. And then when you meet with people, that is really where the selling is done. That's when they get the gist of who you are. That's when they really understand what you're about. And that's when they decide that, hey, if our team had you on it, we would be that much better off. What's your price? Let's work. And so if you're curious on exactly where to begin this, then the first link in the video, in the description down below, is going to take you to a guide on how you can get your first fractional sales consulting client under the radar. It is similar to the process, and in that guide is actually the same resource, the script and the calls that I sent these guys that I talked about that got me into this opportunity. And so with this, I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.